today we have a special guest with us today. His name is Erie Chapman. Now that name might ring a bell. So some people do remember Erie. Okay, so Erie was the president here back from 1983 to 1995. He's had a remarkable career as a healthcare executive, but he's also been a coach. He's also an ordained minister and a lawyer. So he has the law and the Lord on his side. So I'm getting out of his way on this one. Erie also authored the best-selling book, Radical Loving Care, in 2003, and currently leads the Erie Chapman Foundation. He is a philanthropic supporter of Ohio Health, funding the Compassionate Care Award that we will present this afternoon. Several friends and colleagues of Erie's are here today as well, including his wife, Kirsten. Kirsten, thank you for coming. We also welcome the rest of Erie's friends here as well. So please, help me welcome Erie with a warm round of applause.
I want to tell you right away that as soon as he said Erie Chapman is here, I heard someone over here say, is he still alive? Well, it was back when in 1983, I was 39, when I stood over there and welcomed everybody, including leaders, and I gave them one message, which is take care of the people, take care of people. Take care of the people who take care of people. Leader's job, take care of the people who take care of people. And that's all of you, great first line caregivers. It is a huge, huge privilege to be here, to give out one of the scholarships, to add to that scholarship today, and to share with you my profound appreciation for the privilege of being here today, and that I had from the time I first stood on this stage, good golly, in 1983. The next day, by the way, on July 1st, I came out and walked down the hallways, and I noticed something that concerned me a little bit. There were 6,000 employees here then, by the way, same as now, with a very different configuration. I noticed a lot of them are walking down the halls with their heads down. And I thought to myself, well, this is serious. It's a serious place. I mean, no one on Saturday night says, what should we do for fun? Let's go check into the hospital. And no one comes into the ER and says, by the way, have you got enough executives here? They want you, and we appreciate that. So I thought, how can we lift the energy in the hallways as well as in the whole organization? What spark can we light? And I thought of this silly little game that I'm going to go ahead and try with all of you because it is a fun way to pull this whole audience together. I thought, well, what if people were walking by each other and say, you're looking good? Kind of a silly idea. However, you'll see how powerful it is when on the count of three, please wait for the count of three. On the count of three, turn to the person next to you and say, you are looking good. 1, 2, 3. I love that game, even though a couple people over here didn't quite get into it. It's like, you're looking good. Yeah, we couldn't quite do it. 13 decades ago, in a house on Denison Avenue, a group of nurses got together and opened the doors to that house and welcomed the very first patients, 1892, 13 decades ago, in a house. And it was called Protestant Hospital. And they are your spiritual ancestors, for those of you that are nurses in this room. How many nurses here right now? Right? Oh, well. And how many nurses to be? Maybe there you go. Okay. Yeah. All right. That humble house became this incredible facility. It was significant when I was here and left in 1995. It is astounding now, due to this leadership and to Steve and to others that have pulled together, but really most of all, as they would say, due to you. There's no such thing as a great hospital without great nursing. It doesn't exist. So thank you for being part of that great team. When we can't cure, it's so frustrating and so hard. But I want to emphasize something that gets forgotten so often. We may not be able to cure all the time, but we can always heal. We may not be able to cure, but we can always heal. And we do that particularly through a word, compassion, that becomes real life. If you listen to a story that tells this about as well as anyone I've ever heard in, 50 years. People will say to me, well, radical loving care, what does that look like? What does it look like to be compassionate? One evening I was doing rounds at the hospital I went to from here, Baptist Hospital, and I went up to the neonatal intensive care unit, and I walked in the room, and there's 41 babies were there that night, 41 tiny, tiny patients, and I see in front of me Laura Madden, a world-class nurse like all of the group in there, and nurse Laura Madden is standing over a, of course, tiny baby, pound and a half, and I thought, well, this is probably good news because, you know, we are able to bring these babies to full health pretty soon. So I walk up to Laura and I said, Laura, how's the baby doing? And she said, well, this baby's dying right now. And I said, well, where are the parents? And she said, it was too much for them, they left. The baby will die with me, I'm not leaving. So she stood there, and it's striking to me today as when it happened 25 years ago, because it was a terrific example of compassion. And I'm not going to say excuse me, because I think it is okay for men to cry occasionally, but it's hard. Yeah. I'll say to my 55 and 52-year-old kids, how'd it go? I said, well, they applauded when I cried. Here's Laura standing there in that light. And as I went back and I looked over to her, the last hard part of this, she's putting her down and turning off the light. And I thought to myself, you know, nobody asked her. It's not required. You know, a nurse is not required to stay there till the last second. They can go away and say, all right, I got to care for other ones. This one isn't going to be cured. I got to put my energies over here. And that's what Laura was doing. And I've seen thousands of stories like that since then. But that one speaks compassion so clearly because it's not in the nursing manual. It doesn't say stay with baby till last second. You know, it doesn't say stroke the baby's head, which I meant to tell you she was doing. She's doing this the whole time. And she's doing that right up to the second. And when I turned back and looked, she's got her head down after the baby died. And then I kind of nodded to her and walked out the door. Well, if you're ever wondering on your worst day here, what is needed from me? It's trying to keep that heart open when you're thinking, I am way too exhausted. And by the way, that person that was supposed to relieve, they're not here. And I love nursing, but I hate today. Right? And if you can think of this work as a calling, that energy will come back. If it's just a job, people burn out. But if it's a calling, you get tired, but it brings you back, right? So if it doesn't feel like a calling now, I hope you will explore that idea in your own heart so that it can be what your patients and your fellow workers and your leaders are hoping it will be, a calling, so that even on your worst day, you're hanging in there. It's so difficult, it's so hard, and we leaders do not appreciate how difficult that can be. When I would round, I had a question I asked nurses, and it wasn't, have you got your charts done? I would ask them, in the middle of all this struggle, how do you give loving care? How do you give loving care? And they would give me some of the finest answers, just off the top of their heads. Some would say, I don't know, I just do it. Because I asked them that question, they knew that was a priority. I want to say that my experience with Rob thus far says he is right in line with that whole approach, and I love the fact that he's running this hospital right now. And yeah. And I want to say exactly the same about Kanisha, who's somebody I got to know too. Kanisha. Yeah, all right. Okay, that's it. My last thing I wanted to share with you is simply that I'm not going to see you again, but I can see you now, and you are looking good.
Now that is a hard act to follow.